Hey everyone. So today's recipe, I am working on another one of my favorites, which is relatively keto beforehand. The worst offenders in this recipe is the tomato products for the inherent sugars in tomatoes. But today I am doing a bolognese. A bolognese is a traditional three meat Italian ragu type sauce. Those meats typically are pork, veal, and pancetta. Today I'll be working with some more chuck roast I have, some ground Italian sausage, which is just seasoned pork, and then some bacon in the absence of pancetta because pancetta is a bit more expensive. It's essentially just cured pork belly. But in any case, so those are the proteins I'll be working with today. I got crushed tomato, tomato paste, heavy cream will be coming in at the end. For vegetables, I got the mirepoix set, some tomato, some celery, some carrot. I'll be using some rosemary and thyme, some garlic, beef broth, so beef base. Red wine will be going in at several points for deglazing and for flavor. And then seasonings, I got parsley, as it could go at the end. I have some bay leaves during the slow cook process, some oregano, salt and pepper throughout, but keep in mind I'm going to be going light on salt and pepper because I'll be having beef base incorporated at some point. And then a little bit of red pepper flake and some Italian seasoning. So let us start with some veg prep. Now for this particular bolognese I'm doing today, it's going to be going into lasagna. So I am going to be cutting my vegetables fairly small. That way you don't have big, obtrusive chunks of vegetable in your lasagna layers. Oh, and while I'm doing this, the whole time I'm working on some bacon for the week, so some of the bacon will be going into this, some of the bacon will be baked off in a sheet pan in the background and getting traded up on the plate behind me. Now I'm not going to show you everything I'm doing today because I'm making this lasagna for a family friend, and I have to make this modified to be dairy free. So I'll be pulling off half the sauce later and setting it aside for some vegan cheeses. But I'll be just showing you in this video how to make the bolognese sauce itself, and then I'll just be cooking off my own edamame noodles that I had earlier from my tuna casserole video. That'll be going for our meal this week. It'll be a bolognese home-style sauce with some edamame fettuccine. But today, all I'm going to be showing y'all is the sauce. I know previously I've mentioned that it's important to keep in mind what vegetables are going in when, but I am dicing, for this instance, I'm dicing my carrots and my celery all fairly small, and they're all going to be, to get my beef tender, it's going to be at least an hour-long cook. So all my vegetables are kind of going to just blend into the sauce. Now, if I had them in big chunks, then it'd be more significant as the order which I cook things. But today, just because this is going to be incorporated in the lasagna, this can all just get cooked in at the same time together. per usual, I'm going to do all my vegetables before I do my meat. I have to dice meat, and I have to break my chuck roast into slices. That way I can maximize the surface area and sear it off, and then I'll dice it up into small little cubes for the lasagna. And celery and carrots are done. Moving on to the onions. Alright. Next is the garlic and then some parsley. All that onion got me a little bit. I'm gonna set this little bowl aside for my garlic. I'm going to use all this clove here for this. Remember, make your garlic level. And I don't need this to be super fine, as I have stated numerous times before. Rough chops for garlic are perfectly fine, very flavorful, and less likely to burn. And this is going into a slow cook sauce, so this will take a while. Ooh. Things are starting to burn. Alright, I'm going to go rinse off my knife and flip my board. That way I don't have too many other flavors going with this parsley, because this parsley will most likely be used for other items as well. Parsley. Now this, mind you, is probably one of my most labor-intensive meals. It just takes a little while to get it to set up, but it's also a meal that's fairly worth it. Alright. Set you aside for now. And then flip you back on. And this will be used for the last two things I'll need to cut. I got some bacon I'm going to dice and get going in my pot. And then I will dice it and prepare my meat after that. So this is about 1 pound of thick cut bacon. And you're just going to slice it on down. This is going to shrink a lot in the pot. Okay. I'm going to go wash my hands, and I will bring you back to this in a second to see the bacon rendering as to what I'm going to do, but it's going to take a while to render, so I'll be back in 1 second. So all this is about to go in that pot. I'm going to let it sit there and do its thing for a little bit before I spread it out. Now, I am going to break down this hunk of meat. So this meat I'm going to want to trim as opposed to what I was doing for the barbacoa. But you don't really want to chew on big chunks of unrendered or fat in the middle of the lasagna. Some people do. I don't. So I'm going to lose things like this. Gonna lose this little bit of cap up here. And cut it into thin strips like this, because this is going to get seasoned and seared off and then cubed up. Because then you'll eat on these little bit pieces of beef in your lasagna itself. So this is like a 3-pound chuck, and I'm going to get easily like 10 to 12 pieces of meat I have to sear off. Now another way that you could do this is just to actually cut and dice all this up now, but then it's a little harder to get, you know, deep caramelization on all those little pieces, because depending on how crowded you have your pot, they'll just kind of steam together and never caramelize, and then just never develop a nice crust. you go. Now, if you want to save yourself a little more trouble but increase your price, what you do is you get a better steak cut, like a sirloin or a strip. But then, which will also reduce your cook time to make it tender, but greatly increase your expense. Now, a lot of people, they just actually just do ground beef instead. Okay. Alright. I'm going to leave this as that. Lay this out so I can start seasoning it on one side. Okay. And that is it for knife work. Well, almost. Okay. I'm going to go wash my hands, and I'll show you what the bacon's looking like. So the bacon is just starting to render. I'm going to let this go a little bit, drain off excess fat, and repeat until all the bacon is crisp. And then I'm going to take out all the crisp bacon, set it aside for now, and then leave the small amount of bacon fat to sear that beef in. And then after that, I'm going to start searing my ground pork, and then my vegetables, and bring in all my other components. So for now, I will just season up this first layers of beef. And let them sit for a second. And I'll bring you back after my bacon's rendered. Alright, see you in a bit. Alright everyone, so the bacon's about to be rendered. So I am going to go ahead and take my slotted spoon and fish out all this nice crisp bacon. I was going to go back into the sauce later. It'll just lose a lot of the crispness if I just let it stay there the whole time. Okay. I'm going to go ahead do something a little interesting. I'm going to pour about half this bacon fat I have in here. Just pour that in with my veggies. Then I have just enough bacon fat to coat my pan. and start searing off all this meat I got, or as much as I can in this round. And this will be about 2 rounds to sear all this meat, which is fine. Rinse my hands on. Seasoning the back sides of the meat that weren't seasoned before I flip them. Make it nice and crisp. And you're looking for the meat to develop about that much color in each side. That's raw. A little bit of brown right there. You want at least that. And then you're just going to repeat this process. And all the meat is nice and browned up. That's a better example. And I will bring y'all back in on the next stage, which is I'm going to sear up all this meat, let it rest for a second, get my Italian sausage in the skillet, get that browned up, then get my veggies and get my meat diced up. And we'll start getting all the components of the sauce so we can finally slow cook for at least an hour. Okay, I'll be back in a bit. Look, so I just took all that beef out. So now, this is my 1 pound Italian sausage. I'm going to break it apart into chunks. Reduce that heat a little bit. And then I'm just going to let that do its thing for over here for a second. And then back over here, my board I'm almost done with. Here's one of the pieces of meat I have. You see the brown edges there. Now don't eat any of this because this was on the raw meat board. It was raw pork with raw bacon, and this raw steak. Because this is all going back in that pot. slicing this up into little cubes. It being in small pieces will also reduce its cook time for it to become tender. Because this is all pretty much fully cooked steak. It just needs to get tender so it's nice and juicy in your sauce. Okay. And that is about what I'm aiming for. If this was not going in lasagna, I might have kept these pieces a little more heartier and rustic. But this is fine for now. So, don't make you. Alright. So I will leave you over here for now. You can listen to that sound of sausage sizzling. Keep on cutting my meat over here. Right now, this is about an hour for this is the labor intensive part of this recipe. Is all getting all the little components caramelized and whatnot. But it makes a very big difference in flavor for the final product. Taking these steps to actually brown up as many components as possible and then slowly stew it over an hour or two. So our recommended bolognese is about 4 hours. This will get done in about 2. That's how small most of the stuff is. This ground pork into small pieces. Where did you go? Alright. It's ready for me to start adding veggies. Season this with my non-salt and pepper seasonings. So some oregano, Turkish bay leaves will come in later. A good number of shakes of Italian. And then a little bit of red pepper flake. And this will be adjusted later on. Alright, so I'm going to pause for now. And I'll be back with you after these veggies have softened up a bit. Hello everyone. My veggies are softening up. I'm going to go ahead and add in all this garlic. So then over here, I have tea bags. So I'm going to fill I forgot to chop up my thyme and rosemary, so I'm going to make a little sachet. And just fill these little tea bags with my herbs. And wrap one inside of the other. And drop it in. I just tried carrot, so I'm going to go ahead and add in all my bake as well. Because the carrot was nice and tender. As of right now, I have my mirepoix veggie set, carrots, onions, celery. I have the Italian sausage. I have my cubed up beef. Now I have the various seasonings and the herb sachet there. I'm going to let that go for a little bit. And then I'm going to deglaze this with some red wine. I'm basically pour this whole bottle out and let it cook off a little bit. Gonna add in my tomato product. Some beef base. And then at the very end, when all the meat's tender, it will be finished with these crisp bacon bits, heavy cream, and some fresh parsley. Toss in all this red wine. That was about a cup or so. And I'm going to let that evaporate a little bit. Then I have my tomato product. So I will be back in a second. Hello. So a lot of liquid's cooked off. Now, I'm going to add in a bunch of tomato product. There's all my crushed. A whole bunch of tomato paste. Bunch of beef base, about 2 tablespoons of beef base, and I'm probably going to add This is about almost a pound, 2 pounds of water, 28 ounces. I'm probably going to add double that. And add the first one. Get all that beef incorporated. Actually, I'm not going to add any more liquid. It's a little too wet, but that's fine. So I'm going to add those bay leaves. Oh, 4. I'm going to re-up on all those seasonings I had, but just a little bit. I can always adjust that later on at the end. Flavor now. We're good right now. But I'm going to let this go ahead, come to a boil, put a lid in it, reduce that heat to a simmer, and I will be back with you all in at least an hour. Hey yo. So it has been about an hour and 20-ish minutes. All of the meat is tender. I have removed the portion that was going to my friends for their pasta. So this is what it looks like with bacon and parsley added in. Nice and thick and saucy. I'm going to add a dash of heavy cream. This is actually about half a cup. Just to line it up. Just because it's pretty beefy and tomatoey, so it's a little acidic and heavy. And the heavy cream will lighten this color and flavor a bit. And that is the final product. All right. So, brief rundown of all the goodies. That was like a 3-pound chuck roast, 2 small onions, 3 stalks of celery, 2 carrots, 4 bay leaves, oregano, about half tablespoon. Same story for the Italian seasoning. A couple pinches of red pepper flake, salt and pepper to taste, about 2 tablespoons of beef base, a cup of red wine, half a cup of heavy cream, a couple sprigs of thyme and rosemary, 1 28-ounce can of crushed tomato, and then 1 12-ounce can of tomato paste. And that's about all I can remember at the moment. But I'll post again in the final version of the video, everything that went in there. But anyways, that is my homemade bolognese. Oh, and a pound of bacon and a pound of Italian ground sausage. All right. Have a good night.